Let's start with a feeling you probably know all too well. You're lying awake at 2 a.m., staring into the dark, replaying the day's failures, the unanswered messages, the goals you abandoned yet again. Deep down, you ask yourself, does any of this really matter? Or am I just drifting through life, inventing meaning as I go? Suddenly, an ad pops up on your feed. A new book, a movement, a guru, a philosophy that promises, here's the answer, here's the meaning. Just believe. It's tempting, isn't it? All you have to do is take a leap of faith, let yourself be carried by a story bigger than your doubts. No more questions required. But what if every time you reach for that comforting answer, you're quietly betraying yourself? What if the deepest danger isn't the emptiness you fear, but the urge to run from it by lying to yourself, by escaping into easy certainty? Today, we're going to challenge one of the most seductive and damaging impulses of the modern mind, the leap into false hope. Albert Camus called this philosophical suicide, the act of abandoning your own honest questioning for an easy, metaphysical solution. In this episode, you'll discover why resisting this leap might be the most courageous, transformative act of all. You'll learn what it really means to live with the absurd, how to spot the subtle ways you betray your own mind, and most importantly, how facing reality, even when it hurts, can unlock a life of authenticity and quiet power. Are you ready to stop running from your questions and finally meet yourself where you truly are? Let's begin. First, let's name the beast. Camus introduces the term philosophical suicide to describe a subtle but profound act. When you abandon the honest struggle to understand life's absurdity and instead accept a comforting belief simply because it feels good or seems easier. It's the moment when, confronted with a universe that offers no clear answers, you grab onto a ready-made story, God, fate, cosmic destiny, even the idea that everything happens for a reason, not because you're convinced by evidence, but because the alternative feels too frightening to bear. Camus's warning is sharp. To shed light upon the contradiction is to refuse to flee from it, to accept the world as it is, and myself as I am, without hope of escape. Let's bring this down to earth. Imagine you're facing a painful breakup. The uncertainty, the sense of loss, the fear of loneliness, they're overwhelming. It's easy to turn to spiritual platitudes. It all happened for a reason. Or, maybe this is my karma. But are you really convinced? Or are you just trying to escape the pain of not knowing? Philosophical suicide isn't just about religion or grand metaphysical systems. It's anytime you surrender your own thinking for a pre-packaged answer. It's as much about self-help cliches and productivity mantras as it is about theology or mysticism. So what does this mean for you? If you ever feel the pull of easy answers when things fall apart, pause. Ask yourself, am I genuinely convinced by this explanation? Or am I just afraid to sit with uncertainty? The habit of philosophical suicide is seductive because it promises comfort. But comfort bought at the price of your own authenticity is always a bad bargain. You don't need to have all the answers to be at peace. What you need is the courage to not answer, to resist closing the question just because it hurts. This is the first step in building an unshakable, honest self. Now, you might be wondering, but isn't hope a good thing? Don't I need some kind of faith to survive? Camus addresses this directly. He acknowledges that the leap of faith, a term made famous by Søren Kierkegaard, feels natural when faced with a world that seems indifferent or even hostile. Kierkegaard said, "You must leap into faith because reason can only take you so far." In other words, when logic fails, just jump. But Camus counters, "No, don't jump. Stay where you are. Feel the contradiction. Face it head on." He calls this maintaining the absurd tension, the refusal to resolve the paradox by force. You want life to have meaning, but you see no evidence that the universe agrees. That's the absurd. And the most authentic thing you can do is refuse to pretend otherwise. Think of it this way. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff in thick fog, unable to see what lies ahead. The leap of faith is closing your eyes and jumping, hoping something will catch you. Camus's approach: open your eyes as wide as you can. Stay on the edge. Feel the wind, the uncertainty. Don't pretend you're safe. Don't pretend you know. Why is this so powerful? Because it's in the not knowing, in the tension, that you find your real strength. When you stop leaping, you start seeing. So, how could you use this insight in your own journey? The next time you're tempted by a just believe solution, whether it's a diet fad, a life hack, or a spiritual shortcut, ask yourself, am I trying to escape the discomfort of uncertainty? Or can I dare to stand in it, just for a while longer? When you feel the urge to leap, breathe. Notice the discomfort. Remind yourself, I don't need to jump. I can stand here, eyes open, and see what's really here. This is not the path of cynicism or despair. It's the beginning of real self-respect. Let's take this even deeper. If the answer isn't to leap, then how do you actually live with the absurd? What does it look like to build a life in a universe that refuses to explain itself? Camus's answer is both challenging and liberating. Live without appeal. What does this mean? To live without appeal is to stop appealing to some higher power, some external judge, or even a future version of yourself for the real meaning of your life. It's choosing to build your meaning here and now, not because someone else guarantees it, but because you yourself choose it. Let's use a concrete metaphor. Imagine you're an artist. Your canvas is blank. Your brushes are worn, and no one is telling you what to paint. You can wait for inspiration from above, or you can start painting with whatever colors you have. You don't know if your painting will be admired, or if it even matters in the grand scheme. But in the act of painting, in the raw honesty of creation, you find your answer not given, but made. That's what it means to live without appeal. To stop outsourcing the meaning of your life to an invisible judge, and instead accept that you are the one who creates it, moment by moment, choice by choice. Why does this matter for your life right now? Because it shifts you from being a passive recipient, always waiting for meaning to appear, to an active creator even when the universe seems indifferent. When you stop appealing, you become responsible for your story. You don't have to know why you're here. You just have to choose what you stand for every day in small ways. Try this tonight. Before bed, write down one thing you did today that mattered to you, not because someone told you, not because it fits a grand narrative, but because you chose it. Here's a hard truth. Every time you surrender to false hope, you lose a piece of yourself. Why? Because philosophical suicide isn't just about abstract ideas. It's about your character. It's about integrity. Camus argues that the most precious thing you have is your honesty, the part of you that would rather face pain than lie to yourself for a moment's comfort. Consider this scenario. You're struggling in your job, unsure if your work means anything. Your friends tell you, don't worry, everything will work out. The universe has a plan. It's tempting to believe them. But deep down, you know you're just covering up the anxiety, not dealing with it. The cost. You become dependent on hope that's not truly yours. You lose the clarity that comes from seeing things as they are. You start drifting, living for the next distraction, the next reassurance, never standing still long enough to meet yourself honestly. So, what can you do instead? Practice the discipline of honest questioning. When something hurts, don't rush to explain it away. Sit with the discomfort. Name what you're feeling. Ask, what am I avoiding by reaching for easy comfort? This is not about rejecting all hope. It's about refusing the kind that blinds you. Protect your inner honesty like it's your most valuable possession, because it is. If this all sounds heavy, here's the paradox. By refusing to escape, by staying present with the absurd, you actually unlock a new kind of freedom. Camus says, "The absurd man is he who is aware of this confrontation between his longing and the unreasonable silence of the world." When you accept the absurd, without leaping to false hope, something shifts inside you. You stop being at war with reality. You become lighter, more open, more creative. You discover that freedom is not the absence of struggle, but the willingness to engage with life as it is fully, without illusions. In practical terms, this means you can pursue love, work, friendship, art not because they fulfill some cosmic plan, but because they are the experiences you have, the ones you choose, here and now. It means you stop measuring your worth by outside standards. You stop asking, is this enough? And start asking, is this honest? Is this mine? Try this. Tomorrow, do one thing, not because it's supposed to mean something, but because you choose it just for its own sake. So, what's the point? The point is that you gain a deeper, quieter confidence, a sense that even if the universe is silent, you are not. You can answer with your actions. You can build a life that's true, even when you have no guarantees. Let's ground all this in a real-world scenario. Imagine Chloe, a young professional, smart and thoughtful, but restless. She wakes up each morning dreading her job, scrolling past social media advice that promises instant happiness if she just changes her mindset or starts meditating. One day, after a hard conversation with her boss, Chloe stares at herself in the bathroom mirror and wonders, is all this struggle even worth it? Should I just give in, find someone to tell me what to do, what to believe? She's tempted, so tempted to adopt the beliefs her friends hold, to join a community that offers comforting answers, to leap into a philosophy that says, you're special, you're chosen, you're destined. But something in her holds back. She remembers a line she once read from Camus, "I want to know whether I can live with what I know and with that alone." So, Chloe decides to wait, to not leap. She sits with her uncertainty. She lets herself feel the ache of not knowing, the vulnerability of being honest with herself. Over time, something shifts. She doesn't find an ultimate answer, but she does find a kind of calm, a respect for her own mind, her own choices. She starts building her life, not on borrowed hope, but on honest engagement with what's real, one small act at a time. What if you tried this? What if you stopped searching for perfect answers and instead trusted yourself enough to live with your questions. Maybe, like Chloe, you'd find that not knowing isn't a prison, but a place of freedom. So let's step back. Why does any of this matter? Why should you care about philosophical suicide, or absurd tension, or the refusal to leap into false hope? Because this is not just about philosophy. It's about how you live, how you love, how you create, how you find meaning in a world that refuses to hand it to you. Camus' challenge is for all of us. To become adults, not just in age, but in courage. To stop demanding that life explain itself, and instead, to build lives that are honest, creative, and awake. In a world flooded with easy answers, motivational slogans, spiritual shortcuts, endless 5 steps to happiness, the rarest virtue is honesty, not just with others, but with yourself. Camus doesn't tell you what to believe. He doesn't offer a ready-made system. He invites you to live without illusion, to keep your eyes open, to refuse both despair and false hope. He invites you to stay with the absurd, and in that space, to find a freedom that belongs to you alone. As he writes, the struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Maybe, in the end, happiness is not about solving the riddle. Maybe it's about learning to live honestly with the question. Let's recap. Today, you explored a radical idea that leaping into false hope, embracing easy answers, or metaphysical stories for comfort is actually a kind of philosophical suicide. You learned how Camus challenges you not to jump, but to stay with the question, to refuse easy escapes, and to live without appeal to any higher authority. You discovered that, by protecting your honesty and facing the absurd without running, you become more free, not less. You can build meaning not on borrowed certainty, but on your own choices, right here and now. So, what's the core tool? The gift you can carry forward? It's the courage to question, the discipline to wait, and the self-respect to live honestly, even in the face of doubt. Remember, you don't have to solve life's mystery to live with power and dignity. You only have to refuse to betray yourself for easy comfort. Start small. Next time you're tempted by a quick fix or an answer that feels too convenient, pause. Ask, is this my truth, or am I just escaping? Then breathe, and let the question stay open a little longer. That's where your real growth happens. I invite you now, share in the comments. What's one question you're willing to live with? Honestly, without rushing to answer. How will you protect your honesty, even when it's hard? If this video spoke to you, please subscribe to MindMirror for more explorations into the big questions and practical wisdom for real self-discovery. And join us for our next episode, where we'll dive into another forbidden truth about existence that most people never dare to face. Until then, keep questioning, keep living with your eyes wide open, and never, ever settle for a comforting lie over your own honest search. The ideas explored in this video are for philosophical and psychological exploration and are not intended as professional advice. Viewers are encouraged to engage in their own critical thinking and further research, and to consult with qualified professionals for personal concerns.